This week on the Baseline Podcast, Josh and I discuss some of the major things happening in the world of sports. We talk about how Lionel Messi has broke the news that he is going to be coming to the United States to play soccer for Inter Miami in the MLS, and it is going to bring some big waves of soccer fans to the United States, which we will all break down for you. We will also talk about the NBA Finals, the NHL Finals, and lastly, are the Reds becoming legit? We answer that all and so much more coming up on the Baseline Podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Baseline Podcast. I'm Ben, that's Josh, and yes, I pardon if I sound a little clogged up. It's because, well, I am, because I was kind of like sick on my birthday, Josh. It was not the birthday you dream of, you know, when you're turning 27 and you're like, I'd be doing something fun. No, I was not feeling well at all. You know how it is.
Yeah, I can't recall a time that I was sick on my birthday, maybe when I was way younger, but I can't imagine it's any fun.
No, you know, and it's just like everyone's like wishing for like, what'd you do? What'd you do? I'm like, you know, just stayed indoors because luckily, I mean, I was glad that Rebecca and I decided to, you know, we decided to celebrate the birthday on Sunday. So that kind of helped, you know, ease a little bit. But I will say it was a great weekend because the Budapest Cowbells have clinched possibly a 3 seed, depending on the results of another game this weekend. So that means some home field advantage for the first round, and then we have to go on the road. But yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend of football. We have a second team game this weekend, and then obviously we'll have the playoffs after that. So it's fun, Josh. I never thought I'd say coaching football in freaking June when it's hot would be fun, but it is fun.
Hey, speaking of other sports that may not
Yes.
be the most fun to play in the summer, Ben,
Yes.
these NHL Stanley Cup finals,
Oh, don't even get me started.
they haven't been the most exciting to watch,
No,
and I only tie that in because both teams are like from hot weather
that
states,
is true.
and
Yeah.
we got Vegas up 2-0 right now.
Yeah.
We were talking about this a little earlier. I got to watch the second game. Vegas so far has outscored Florida 12-4, is up 2-0 now.
Yeah.
What's really been a kicker here is Sergei Bobrovsky, Florida's goalie.
Former Blue
He's been
Jacket.
hot in the playoffs. He's been in like the mid 90s for save percentage.
Yeah.
And in these games, he's had an 87.9 save percentage. And then in game 2, he was only saving 69.2%. And then Vegas, on the other hand, they've now scored at least 5 goals 8 times this postseason already. Jonathan Marchessault and I think I said his name right, and Jack Eichel each got 4 points each in game 1 and 2. They're cooking. It looks like Florida might be overmatched, which shocks me a little bit because it's not like they haven't played anybody good yet between teams like Boston and Toronto. But maybe they're just finally gassed out, or maybe Vegas' style is just a whole other animal form they're not used to seeing.
Hey, what would you say? Maybe Vegas is now going to be picking Vegas to win. Sorry, that was my joke.
I'm sure Vegas odds are high right now on Vegas.
No.
On team.
No, but in reality, I think it's fascinating to me because you have the Vegas Knights, who obviously I think it's not been a team, like it's been a team that's been consistent all year, you know, as I've looked through the stats and everything. But you look at the Florida and you're like, well, they beat the Boston Bruins. So obviously they're the team, like they're it. But I think it goes back to, and Josh, we've talked about this for you know the last year as we've done this podcast, that when you get into the playoffs, it's a different type of game because you can't just, I'm going to rest our players, you know, games 3 and 4, right? It's not like during the regular season. And I think now you're seeing the Florida Panthers are finally getting to the point where it's like, okay, because like even when I was watching replays, I'm like, these guys look gassed. Like the Knights look so much quicker, and it seems like they have more fluid.
They do.
To the way they're doing things.
I was texting buddies watching the game. It's like, man, Vegas is just passing the ball better. They're moving better. And then they got on the board first. And the next thing you know, second period, it's 4-0. And I'm like, well, it looks like I've seen enough. I got to get to bed.
Well, you even said Bobrovsky. You talked about him, and I agree with you. I think he hasn't looked like the Bobrovsky. Even I remember when he played for the Blue Jackets. I think he's one of these guys that it just seems like he's either lost it or he's just kind of, and you can't blame it all on the goalie, but dude, it does come down to you whether you stop the puck or not.
Florida's gotten a lot of wins in heavily defensive games,
Yeah.
winning like 2-1, 3-2. So those extra saves he's been getting, they just haven't been there, and it's the final scores are showing.
Yeah, and I think I don't know how the series is going to end. I think it's going to be really hard for this Panthers team because I just you're down 2-0. Like you had to steal a game in these first two games, especially after the first game, struggling the first game. Now, I would say it'd probably take a miracle for them to come back. Wouldn't you say?
Well, good thing there's a hockey movie out there called
Oh,
Miracle.
gee,
And
Christ,
if
what's
I
the
was
movie?
the coach of the Florida Panthers, I'd play that movie before game 3. And next thing you know, we'll be seeing a Florida Panthers 4-2 series win, Ben.
If that happens, like I would be that's even more shocking than if like the Celtics came back from they were down 3-0. You know, like to me, it's a little much
It's
there.
a little different when the underdog is coming back from down
Yes, that's true.
3-1 or
Yeah.
3-0. Yeah. But we got a little bit more hockey talk that we'll set aside for later. But we want to take advantage of some rare breaking news on the
Yes.
day that the episode comes out. Lionel Messi is coming to the MLS, Ben. This is
Yeah.
something that I'm sure Jared,
Yeah.
Johnny Gaunt, and all of our soccer audience is going to be absolutely loving. Even for me, like not being a huge soccer fan, it's like we haven't seen a name this big come to the MLS
Since
since maybe
Zlatan
David Beckham. And I mean,
or
even Zlatan,
Zlatan,
yeah,
yeah.
Zlatan was a big one, but even
He,
still, it's like,
yeah,
dang,
but
like Messi's coming here.
Zlatan was at the near the end of his career. Obviously, he just retired. That's our by the way, that's another breaking news. Zlatan
That's
retires,
why
which no
Messi
one thought.
needed to come to the MLS.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, and you said it. You said it. Like it's gonna this move right here. And I said as soon as I saw this on my phone today, this move will change the face of soccer in the United States. You will have people who never thought of playing soccer, who never thought of watching soccer, are going to come out and start watching soccer. Why? Not because they love the sport, because Lionel Messi, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, is going to be playing in every city in MLS's in their league. You know, he's going to come to Columbus and play. He's going to come to Cincinnati and play. He's going to go down to Salt Lake. He's going to go down to Texas. Like every team is going to get that chance to host Lionel Messi. Like it's not if it hasn't hit you yet, it's mind-boggling that a guy who's played for Barcelona, who just won a World Cup with Argentina, is choosing to take his talents not to Saudi Arabia, where he's following Ronaldo, who is making like 300 million a year, and now Benzema is making like goodness, it's like what 600 million a year or whatever it
I don't
is.
know, dude.
All that oil money, right? No, he said, I want to make my own legacy. And we have heard before he went to Paris, we heard that there was talks that he would stay with Barcelona and then, you know, he would have like a 2-year deal with Inter Miami. People have been, I've heard people saying like, why did he leave Paris Saint-Germain? They give him a lot of money. I think he kind of fell out of love for the game of soccer, I think. And I'm not saying that like, oh, he hates soccer. It's just, he wasn't the same Messi that I think we saw the enthusiasm and everything that he was with Argentina and back when he played for Barcelona. And so for me, seeing Lionel Messi playing in the United States, I think you're going to see a shift in the sports world in America. Now, soccer's already becoming huge in America, but you add Lionel Messi, that's like adding gasoline on a fire. And this guy is going to come in there, and I think this could be just like how Saudi Arabia is starting to grab, you know, the N'Golo Kantes, the Benzemas, the Ronaldos. You're going to start seeing, I think, the U.S. taking guys not when they're 36, 37, like Ronaldo and Benzema, when he's like 34. You're going to start seeing maybe some bigger name guys come over when they're 29, when they're 30, when they're 28. Guys that are still at their prime, but on the end of their prime, rather than you see when Zlatan came when he was like 38 years old. You know, when Beckham came when he was like 35, 36, Rooney when he was 36, 37. But instead, I would love to start seeing guys come when they're 30 years old, 31 years old, bring this hype to Major League Soccer, just like we've seen in the NBA, where you have Nikola Jokic coming, where you have Giannis, where you have Joel Embiid. You have all these international dudes coming and changing the game of basketball. It can be the same thing for soccer.
And I think another key contribution to this making this deal happen is Messi is going to get some revenue share for all the Apple TV subscriptions, all the merchandise.
Yeah.
Obviously, like MLS isn't going to have like the money that like the Saudis have, but I think you have to do something like that and compromise when I guess you don't have the funds. And if someone's like Messi is drawing much more of an audience
Yeah.
than what the MLS would have otherwise, I think it's only fair that he's getting some of that money. But at least for this season, Ben, like you were talking about, people are going to watch soccer now. First thing I did was check to see if Miami is coming to Cincinnati or Columbus, at least for the 2023 season. They're not, so I'm going to have to wait till 2024 if I want to see them. The closest that he gets is a match at
Nashville?
Chicago,
Oh,
and tickets are as low as $271 if
oh my
anyone wants to go
goodness.
and watch him right now.
No, and this
I don't know if that price reflects just because like Messi's there now and now the demand's already that high, or if that's how much their tickets usually are anyways.
yeah,
But I might try to catch a Messi match sometime in 2024, Ben, and I don't even care about soccer.
and have a little video that we put up on the Instagram. You never know. No, and I think this too. That something else that popped my head. That I think was fascinating about this is that you know, yeah, he's not going to probably make a ton of as much money as he would anywhere else. But this man's going to get live in Miami, which a Spanish speaking city, which he speaks Spanish. He's obviously that's what he's comfortable with, and he's going to be in the U.S. market. He already has a brand, Team Messi, that's going to just blow up in America. Like everything he touches in America is now just going to become this thing. And do not be shocked, and I mean this, and I think Jared would be very happy of this. Do not be shocked if you see Cristiano Ronaldo go, huh, I don't mind playing for $500 million a year here in Saudi, but why don't I get a piece of that action? And don't be shocked if he goes on the West Coast, right? And goes to LA or LAFC or LA Galaxy. I think it'd be really, really cool to see like the end of the Ronaldo Messi era, when they're in their late 30s playing in the MLS, it kind of sums up their career. To me, that'd be really cool. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that's my hope and wish for the future of Major League Soccer.
We can only hope. That's like two of the maybe top five biggest names in all of sports in terms of internationally. So
And it would be in
it'd
the
be cool to
U.S.
have it here in the country over here.
That is true.
But
Any other points? Any other points you have to add about what? Okay, I do want to say this, Josh. What do you think about Saudi Arabia and like with these, obviously Cristiano Ronaldo, N'Golo Kante, now Benzema, these guys are going to be making, 100, $200 million a year. Like, does it like blow your mind? Like, have you grasped the fact that these dudes are making like $200 million a year to play soccer? Like, it's just weird to me.
I haven't. Like in the NFL, I don't even think team payrolls are $200 million a
No, they're
year
not.
yet. I don't think the salary cap's gotten that high yet. We've seen like in baseball, I think some of the richest contracts we've seen in baseball have been like 40 to 50 million a year,
Yeah,
maybe. And then yeah, 200 million is like that's absolutely insane.
yeah, and I think that's to me, what's more ironic is the fact that these dudes are like, it wasn't about the money. Dude, come on. You going to
Yeah,
Saudi
they
Arabia
got
to play soccer?
yeah,
I'm
they
just
got to
saying.
say something like that. Yeah.
Like, I would have been like, if I was that guy, I'd be like, yeah, it was. I'm making 200 million a year. Yes, absolutely. That is exactly why I'm going.
Yeah, and that's not even anything unique to like this Saudi thing. It's like when a player goes and signs the richest contract with like another team, and instead of taking like the hometown discount, they all are like, it wasn't about the money. It was about, a
Yeah,
fresh start, like a new change of scenery. I like what they're building here.
drives
And
me
meanwhile,
nuts.
they're a team that like went 4-12 last year and is
Well,
building nothing. It's like, oh yeah,
it's
okay.
like Cristiano Ronaldo.
See
Like
right through it, my guy.
they didn't even win the title this year. Like, and that's what's just funny to me. Like, this dude's getting paid $160 million a year, and he didn't win a title. Like, I'd be like, dude, you failed. But no, it is fascinating. I mean, it's the same with golf. Obviously, with Live Golf, it's the same. That money talks, man. You're gonna have guys that are gonna screw the loyalty type tag, and they're gonna say, "Hey, I'm gonna go where the money is." And we see it in baseball. We saw it in basketball a lot, not as much recently, but more in the past. Um, and it's just interesting. It's interesting to see where guys' hearts lie, and I think that's what makes sports so unique because you have so many personalities that kind of make these things run and these things kind of go. At least from my perspective,
Wait till the Saudis start getting into NIL and college
dude.
sports, bro.
It's gonna be. There's a chance that we thought China was taking over America. No, it's the Saudis. The Saudis are gonna come in and just destroy American sports like we know it. 100%. They're gonna have an NFL team in Saudi Arabia. You're not gonna be able to travel to it. You're just gonna have to watch it on TV.
Man, they ain't even thinking small like in terms of an NFL team, man. They might start their own league,
Jeez.
take on the XFL and the NFL.
And the HFL, obviously here in Hungary. I mean, we are dominant. I'm
Oh
just kidding.
yeah, excuse me.
Dominant league.
And the
Dominant.
USSFL, the
It's
other one, and the
USFL.
CFL, like
USFL.
none of them are safe
There's a
now.
Mexican league. There's a Brazilian league. I mean, we can just keep adding leagues.
Man, we could. Arena League still around?
Yeah, there's still a lot. I mean, even in Europe, there's like I think every big country in Europe has a American football league. It's fascinating. Even like Denmark and Norway and some of these countries as well, Sweden. So Saudi Arabia, I would not be shocked if they started their own. I mean, it'd be very stinking hot to be playing in Saudi Arabia playing
It would.
football. But
Why don't we stay on the Saudi Arabia
yeah.
topic and talk about this Live PGA
Oh
merge?
goodness.
Man,
Uh,
I thought that eventually we might see a compromise
yeah.
years
A
down the road, but
compromise. The keyword
it only took a
compromise.
year. It only took a year, Ben, for the PGA to realize like, dang, we need money, and I think the Live was just kind of like we need like the prestige and the name and like maybe get rid of like some of this like hate off our backs. But either way, it's already happening. We've seen people like Roy McIlroy, who's been very adamant about his hate for the Live Tour, speaking out against this. But one thing that I thought when I heard this is comments that Phil Mickelson made when he initially joined Live and talked about how maybe in the long run this is going to be great for the game of golf because it's going to force the PGA to make changes to their league to make it better for the players, for the fans, make it more fun. And it's going to be an overall win for the game of golf because the PGA for most of the time has not had any like competitive league to go against. So they have a monopoly on the game of golf, can kind of run it how they want. And now that there's another league that has money that can pay superstars to come and play with them, and it took away a little bit of that prestige the PGA had, it kind of forced them to be like, okay, well, now maybe we'll make some changes. We'll make that are going to be better for the golfers in the long run. Plus, get a little bit of that Saudi Arabia funding, and you're back in business again. But I am surprised that it happened this quick.
You know, my biggest frustration with this whole thing is that, PGA Tour is really a players' league, right? Like the players have a lot of say in it, a lot of things. And to find out that every player on the PGA Tour found out just like we did and found out via internet is, to me, I think that's like the lowest of the lows. Like, I didn't like Live Golf. Like, I didn't like what they were doing. I thought it was kind of just like trying to like ruin something that in some ways was very consistent, the prestige, the honor of the PGA Tour. Yeah, they could have done stuff differently with money and stuff, of course, and that can be adjusted. But the fact that you start your own league more as like a jab at the PGA Tour, that was my kind of first frustration. But the fact that PGA Tour decides to, lay down their guns, because obviously there was somebody that wrote a check and said, hey, we'll write you this much money secretly. And I think there's a guy on TikTok that said he believes that there was probably maybe 5 people in that room, that only 5 people truly knew what this was going on, because no one knew that this was going on. And I think someone, either Norman or someone at Saudi Arabia, wrote a check to the PGA Tour and said, hey, if we merge, this is what you're going to make. And I think, like you said, I think it was too hard for them to turn down. I don't agree with it, because I feel like they didn't actually try to reach out to the players and try it. Like I felt like they just kind of threw that away, I guess, like that relationship they had. When you have guys that are like finding out and like freaking out, like I would too. Like that sucks that like you didn't know about it, that your whole employer decides to just take up ship and go against your enemy, which they've been against the whole time. And then all of a sudden now they're your favorite. They're the favorite to come join forces. So for me, it's just weird. I think it's a little dishonest in some cases, but that's my opinion. Maybe it will be great for golf, but please don't ruin what we love, the Masters, those kind of. Don't ruin it. Don't make it into some joke. That's my only ask.
One other thing that I thought was interesting was the comments Jay Monahan made, the PGA commissioner. Initially, when this Live Tour was starting off, he was saying that like there would never be like any compromise or any merge out of respect for victims of 9/11.
Yeah.
And he got confronted about that in like all these press conferences since then, and he admitted that he looks like a hypocrite now. But at least with all the information that he had at the time, that was where he stood. So what do you think changed since then? The money, the Saudi Arabia check.
Yes.
After lecturing all the guys like Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, and Brooks Koepka,
Just beating the snot out of them.
just taking that moral high ground, just trying to make themselves look good, only to do exactly what they did.
Yeah, it is mind boggling, and I won't understand. But I guess you could give your thoughts, Josh, on how you think this could change golf. And as you do that, I'm going to grab my charger because my computer's about to die. So we don't want that to happen. So you tell the audience what they need to know about what's going to change, and I will be back in 1/2 second.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I'm curious on is, I guess, player salaries, right? Because a huge thing with the guys going to the Live Tour is they're going to make more money, and way more than what they're making in the PGA. And I know that you probably get payouts for like winning tournaments and sponsorships and things like that, but PGA also was paying guys somewhat of a salary, and Live was offering them more, so players would go out and play over there. So these guys that stayed loyal to the PGA, I'd be curious to see in the long run what that's gonna, I guess, do to their salaries. If there's gonna be any favoritism, or if everybody's gonna be making something pretty similar, and then obviously the ones that are winning will make more just because of like bonuses and things like that. The other thing is, I wonder if the Saudi influence is going to affect the way that PGA does anything, maybe in the long run too. You never know. Like what Ben was saying, he hopes that things like the Masters stay true to what they are. But since Live is funding PGA now to an extent with the merger, I'm sure they're gonna want to have a say in how some things are getting run. So that would be another thing that I'd be looking for. And then just to maybe the way that the golfers interact, the PGA guys, the Live guys. I mean, the games are going to be the matches are going to be a lot more competitive because obviously all the great players are now together in the same tournaments again. So it's going to be a lot more competitive. We're going to be seeing different guys win all the time. Now I think maybe there'll be a little bit more parity, but also how's that conversation between like Dustin Johnson and Roy McIlroy going to be, for example, as they're like passing by or whatever? Like just maybe the initial tension, if there will be any forgiveness there. But I guess those three things are what I'll be looking forward to seeing after this merger. But I don't think it's going to change my interest in watching golf at all. But that's my take,
Oh,
my
I agree,
takeaway.
100%. I heard
Yeah,
everything.
because you heard every single word, man.
100%, I agree, and don't disagree with that at all.
Man, look at us.
I hope the charger. My charger. You know how like Apple chargers when they get bad, like the cord, and they just don't charge anything anymore. Like you can plug it
Yeah,
in.
I had to buy a new one recently and went through the
Yeah,
whole thing.
and so we're just hoping this cord lasts for another 40 minutes, and then. But yeah, it sucks because these cords are like freaking expensive. It's just a cord. It's like $30 for a cord, and it's like, really? Anyways, so now we talked about golf. Josh, what would you like to shift our focus? I know we have a pretty big topic we want to talk about when it comes to baseball. But is there anything else you want to talk about? Any other news that you've noticed throughout the week that you're like, man, this is some baseline worthy talking points?
Well, now that we're like in the middle of the episode, I think we should go back to the NHL and drop top 5 logos
This was fun.
for the NHL. We're
This
going
was
through all the
fun.
leagues.
We
We've done
are,
baseball,
yes.
we've done basketball. Now we're into the NHL, and this league, I think, collectively has the best logos in all of
I agree.
professional sports, which made it possibly the hardest league to rank. And we've been way different in the other two leagues, Ben. So I'm
This is
curious
true.
if we're going to have any similarities in this one.
This
Or
was
any
a
common
challenge
themes.
one. Yeah, this was a
It
challenging
was.
one. Because there are so many unique ones. Now, if you went old school, that would change my perspective because I'm just saying the Ducks would have been like the first one for me because the Ducks old one is just amazing.
If we were going with throwback Ducks, that'd be number one. But since they are
hands down,
duck feather or
it's
foot
just awful.
or whatever, it's
terrible.
The worst glow up in logo history, and it ranks
It is
30th out of 30 teams. I don't know how many
That's
the
true.
NHL has, but
So,
it's terrible, man.
Do you want me to start, or do you want to start?
Let's hear your fifth and honorable
All
mention
right.
if you have one.
Yeah, I'll do an honorable mention. Honorable mention for me. I gotta find my list here. Because of the uniqueness of it, but I felt like it didn't, and maybe because it's more of a classic as well. For me, it was the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, I think it's cool. I'm not saying it's not cool, but I think for me, it's just a little too basic. I don't think it's really changed too much over the years. But I do think it deserves that recognition, kind of like I did previously in other ones where I felt like, hey, it's kind of a newer version of it, but yet it's still, I don't think it's hit the crop of like a cool factor or the best logos out there. So I'm gonna go Toronto Maple Leafs as my honorable mention. Number 5 for me. Now I hope this is in your top 5, Josh, because or maybe I'm completely wrong. But my 5 is I gotta hold on, I gotta look here on my thing here. Is the yeah, that's right. Sorry. Is the Arizona Coyotes for me at number 5. Little Coyote. I mean, it just, you can't beat it. It reminds me of like a cartoon, like the what is it, Bugs Bunny cartoon with the coyote. That's what it just reminds me of. But
Wild E, baby.
yeah, but it just has that little cartoonish vibe to me. I just think the Arizona Coyotes have a cool. And their team sucks, but at least their logo's good.
Yeah. Honorable mention for me. I'm rocking with Vegas Golden Knights, honestly. I just
Oh, that's an
love
interesting one. Yeah, yeah.
the gray helmet and then like the way that they get the V in there with the I guess the area that the face would show. Pretty
And
sweet
their
looking
intro
logo
and their
there.
intro is freaking dope. Their
Yeah.
intro to every game is dope.
Arizona isn't my top 5, Ben. A little bit higher, but number 5 for me. Kind of a classic logo that's been around for a while, but the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
The
that's a good one.
wheel with the wing on it, and then you just seen it. It hasn't really changed a whole lot through time.
Yeah.
It's one of those logos where they nailed it on the first try, I feel like, and they haven't really had to do a whole lot.
Kind of like the
And
Boston
for me,
Celtics. It's kind of like the Boston Celtics we talked about.
like that Boston Celtics one that we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right there at 5, Detroit Red Wings.
All right. Well, number 4 for me. Now, the thing is, the hockey gets harder because it's just like there's so many good like
It is.
logos. For me, I think this one's gonna be really low for some people. For me, 4 is, I think, another iconic for me. And it's kind of like an old school vibe, is the Chicago Blackhawks. Like, I think, now I'm not trying to get canceled, okay, people. Like, I'm just gonna be very careful when I'm saying this, but I think it has that cool vibe of like what the Blackhawks were, and like and really what it represented. And for me, it's like an old school, but yet I think they've kept it pretty similar. I mean, they've made changes, but they've kind of kept it similar over the last few years. Um, I will say it probably maybe shocked people that's in my top 5. Maybe it's not in other people's top 5, but for me, again, I go for the iconic look with a little nuance to it, and I think this one looks really cool. So for me, it is the Chicago Blackhawks at 4.
Not in my top 5, but I respect it. Number 4
At
for
least I got
me.
respect. At least I got respect. That's all that matters.
Number 4 for me. I'm going with the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Ooh,
I
that one
like,
caught me off guard a little bit. That catches me off guard a little bit.
yeah, anytime you like get a Thunderbolt in there, like
Jeez.
I tend to lean that way. And then with like just the blue and white color scheme, it looks really good on the uniforms.
Okay,
Big
that
Tampa Bay Lightning logo fan.
I did not see that one coming. To be honest with you, I did not see that coming. But hey, you know what? I'll
Yeah,
give it
that
to
one
you.
might be like, and not that like the Red Wings one's basic, but the Lightning one, it's one that's not super fancy, but I
So
think it looks really
obviously,
good.
number 3 for me is the Hurricane. I'm kidding. No, it's the ugliest thing. That's not my number 3.
Really.
I don't like it at all.
It's not in my top 5, but I
No.
can think of some uglier ones.
For me, number 3 is the Nashville. No, no, yes, the Nashville Predators is at number 3 for
Preds.
me, because I think it's just iconic. Like, the color scheme is really dope, and then you have the Predator, which I never understood why they called it a Predator. Because, like, are they talking about just a generic predator? Because, anyways,
Yeah, it looks
it's beside the
like a
point.
wild cat. Like it
Yeah.
could be a
So,
could
but
be
I just think
anything.
the logo looks dope. Like, if
Yeah.
you're gonna call it a predator, like, it looks dope. It looks kind of freaky, scary. To me, Nashville Predator, that is just cool. And it's Nashville. It was a unique time when the team started, and that logo has just been iconic with them ever since.
Man, yeah, the Preds, I wanted to fit them in there, dude, but they'd probably be around 7 or 8 for me.
Oh,
Definitely a
okay.
top 10 logo though. Number 3 for me is this is where I got the Arizona Coyotes for
Dude,
all
it's
the
just a good
reasons you
logo.
said.
It's just a good
The
logo.
older logo that they got with like the Coyote, like half of it has like the hockey goalie
Yeah.
mask on it, and then the new one just with the Coyote face. I love it. And it's a very unique color scheme. You don't really see many teams going that route anymore, but it's a really good logo. 3rd for me.
This is where it got freaking hard because I didn't know where to go with this. For me, there could be so many things. Like I could say the Blue Jackets just be a homeboy, but I'm not going to because I do think the Blue Jackets have a top 10 logo. I do.
I
Please don't.
don't, but I really love the old Canon logo, like the
Yes, the
throwback
Canon
one
logo
that
is
they
right.
do.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's why I don't think the new one is worthy of a top 5 placement.
Yeah.
But for me, one thing that the one logo that I do like, I was gonna also I didn't mention honorable mention for me is the Boston Bruins. That's an honorable mention for me because of the classic. Boston just knows how to do it, man. They know how to keep it classic. But for me, number 2, I think it was for me an easier, I think, choice than I thought it was going to be. But for me, that is I'm going classic here. Pittsburgh Penguins for me is at 2.
Classic.
You can't go wrong with the penguin with the hockey stick. It's like the coyote for me. It's something about these like cartoonish, but it's the Penguins, and there's the penguin. So many of these teams, and Josh, maybe you agree with me this, they try to make their logo so fancy and they forget what the basics of their logo is or like what their team name is. So I like what the Penguins do, and you can't go wrong with a classic, good looking logo.
Well, let me go with number 2 for me. And this is one of those logos that's probably the busiest logo in all the NHL. But I
Oh,
think
wait, hold on. Ooh, what are we looking at? Huh. I think I know where
it
you're
might
going.
be
Go ahead.
it
Go
might
ahead.
be the busiest logo in all the NHL, but I think they nailed it and didn't take away too much or distract too much. And that's the Minnesota Wild. The bear head with
Yeah,
the red like sunset sky and the green
that's
mountain
true. I didn't
like
even think of
skyline
that.
there with the yellow sun.
I didn't
It's
even
like,
look at it.
oh
I didn't look at
my
the wild.
gosh.
I didn't think of the wild when I was going
Oh
through this
my
list.
gosh, the Minnesota Wild logo, dude. It almost was number 1 for me, but there's one that I do like a little bit better. But man, Minnesota Wild logo, dude. Big raise hopefully went to the graphic designer that made that logo.
So we both know that I think we're both a little off. We're not completely off this time around. We're kind of in the similar pattern, I think,
We
during
have
this.
some that would both be in our
Yeah.
top 10. We had the common team with the Coyotes, and you had the Preds in there that I would have had as like almost an honorable mention.
Yeah.
So,
So the question is, what is number 1 for us? And I have this really
and we
funny
have not
feeling.
had a saying number
Listen,
1.
I have a feeling we're going complete opposite directions on this one. And I
We
don't even think
have,
it's going to be
dude.
close.
And this is the wild thing. You're number 1 in baseball and in the NBA. Didn't even make my top 5 and vice
Yeah, I know.
versa.
I know. Um,
Man.
should we do it on the count of 3 and then we just say who we have? Is that, or do you want to go one by
I
one?
don't know. I think we're going different routes with one. Last week with NBA, I really thought we both were going to have the Miami Heat, and we didn't.
We
So,
didn't. No. Here we go. All right. All right, I'll go first.
all right.
My number 1, drum roll please. My number 1 is the Seattle Kraken. The Seattle Kraken dude, that S with like the little eyes, it just looks like slick. And I never thought I would say a new team has the coolest logo, but ever since they were announced, I thought this logo, I hated the name, but the logo for me was just on point and
Man,
is there. Now,
it's a
Josh,
freaking good one, but it's not my number 1.
dadgummit, I was hoping we'd be on the same, but we're not. Did you go,
Man,
okay, question
crack.
is, did you go old school or new school? Like style of logo for your number 1?
I feel like this one might lean a little bit more towards the old school route,
Okay.
but
Eastern Conference,
number
Western Conference?
Western Conference.
Let me guess. I'm going to
You
guess
can
here.
guess.
All right, here we go. So you've already taken out, you don't have the Knights, so no Kraken. You wouldn't go Kings.
No, I'm not that
Okay.
biased.
I'm going to say the Avalanche.
No.
Is it the
Number 1,
Sharks?
the Sharks.
It was one of
San
those two.
Jose Sharks, number 1. And it's for a lot of the same reasons you mentioned about Pittsburgh. Just the shark with biting the hockey stick down the middle, the teal and black. Really, I love any kind of like off blue like that. Looks really good on the jerseys. It's a shark,
We
which is
just
like a freaking cool nickname as it is.
we just have a different style when it comes to logos. Like our brains just work completely opposite of each other.
And it
I'm
seems
starting to
like,
notice that.
yeah, we like different classic logos. Because it's not like one of us is going all classic and one of us is going
No,
like all modern. Like there's a little bit of mixture of modern and classic, I feel like, in all of our rankings. But some of the classics we like better than others. Some of the modern ones we like better than others.
I think you're more of like the unique color palettes. I'm more of like the design itself. Because I feel like you're more into like the unique color palettes with a cool design, but you have that unique color palette. Because each one of your top threes for like the last few weeks have had this like the unique color palette together with a design.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe that's just me, but at least
At
that's
least
what
with
I've
the
noticed.
NHL, the MLB was pretty basic colors,
Yeah,
but
of
the
course.
NBA I think was a little more out there.
Yeah. But I think that's just the unique kid because, like, for me, I like simple, but I like kind of cool and classy, but also the Kraken. I just couldn't pass up putting the Kraken in the top five. If I didn't put him in the top five, I feel like I would just been wrong
Yeah.
to myself.
I feel like Kraken could have fit number 5 for me too, honestly, after like thinking it through again.
But we
But
can all agree that the Ducks have one of the worst logos. And we
yeah,
can
like the
also
new
agree,
one, they had such a good logo
and
with the old one.
we can
And
also agree that the what is this other one? We also agree that the Ottawa Senators have a terrible logo.
that's
Um,
a boring one.
and the Capitals, they don't even have a logo. It's just Capitals. That's another one that's terrible. LA Kings need to do a lot better. I'm just saying. Their logo is pretty sad.
It's just the badge, yeah. It's nothing
It's
like
pretty sad.
super cool. Another one that could change, and I don't know if they ever will, just because
The
it's how
Blues, that's
iconic
another
it
one.
is. But I was gonna say Philly.
Philly's kind of boring too.
Like that P might be the most popular P logo in all of sports.
Some would say that they have to go pee a lot because of it.
The heck,
I don't know.
man. Um,
But the Blues is also another one that I just think is ugly looking. It just doesn't even make sense to me.
the music note,
Yeah.
yeah, one of the more boring ones. I mean, like all the NHL there's so many good NHL logos
The
that there's
Stars is
only
not great either.
there are a few that stand out as like not that great, but there's like legitimately 20
Well,
logos here that I think could have like top 10
I mean,
consideration.
Calgary needs to be upgraded, like updated, because like the flame is getting kind of old. The whole C with the flame,
The
like we just
flame
need to,
on the sea is one of those where it's like I feel like that's a little too busy and
yeah.
doesn't do what like the Minnesota Wild logo does.
The Oilers again. I don't like names in logos. Just remove the name. Just think of something cool.
Yeah,
You
your
know,
team, like everybody should know what your team is without the name being in there. Like they should be able
like
to see the logo and be like,
I
oh,
think
that's the,
I
you
want the
know,
Blue Jackets to go back to the cannon. I've always said the Blue Jackets should go back to the cannon
the
as their
cannon full
logo.
time.
That's just awesome. I mean, it's
Yes.
cool. Um,
I'm here for it.
the Rangers, it's also like the Kings. Like, come on, guys, we're not playing
The
soccer.
badge.
We're not
Yeah.
playing soccer. But yeah, anyways, also the Winnipeg Jets were really close to making my honorable mention because I think it looks cool with the jet on the leaf. I think that's
That
just
is a
cool.
cool one. All right. Well, that's NHL logos. Let us know what you guys
Yeah, let us know in
love
the
in the
comments.
league,
Yeah,
what you hate.
for sure.
But
We'll probably do we'll probably at some point this summer do our worst five of things. I'm sure logos will come up again because
yeah.
it wouldn't be a Josh and Ben podcast without discussing stupid topics
And
that have
then
nothing to
it'll
do with
get
it.
really spicy when one of my worst is one of your best and vice
Oh, it will
versa.
be. It will be a fight. There will literally be a fight.
We'll fight. Yeah. All right. We haven't talked much about we haven't talked anything about the NBA yet, but we got a 1-1 finals over there, Ben. The
Yes,
series is moving to Miami, and game 3 is tonight as we're
as we're recording.
recording.
Yeah.
And I think if you're Eric Spoelstra or Jimmy Butler and you were told that you're going to be tied 1-1 going back to Miami for game 3 and 4, I think you're absolutely stoked.
Yes, but I still think that they do not win this series. To me, Jokic, and I think Kevin Garnett and Tracy McGrady were talking about this in an interview or something like that, or a podcast. They're like, Jokic is literally the best player in the NBA, and they just didn't want to give it to like the white guy 3 years in a row, and especially like the white European dude that's not flashy at all. They didn't want to give it to him 3 years in a row, but he is the best player, and I think the scary part is that when he scores 40, the Nuggets do terrible, and I think that's where
They're
you have to
0-3 in
balance
the
him out.
playoffs, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I think the Nuggets will probably get one game in Miami, maybe two, but I'm going to say it's going to go back to Denver 2-2. It's going to go back to Denver 2-2.
Just things that I observed watching game two is like Denver, like, and we brought up that Jokic scored so much. Like Miami was throwing everything at him. It
Yeah,
seemed like
he's
Bam was
still
on him, like
dominating.
out at the 3 point line, and they
Dude's
had
a freak.
Jimmy Butler on him a couple times. They had some of the guards like trying to like swat and take the ball away, but then it's like, gee whiz, man, you see the fast break where Jokic dribbles all the way down the court with his left hand, which isn't his dominant hand, and then gets the layup. It's like, geez, no matter what you throw at this guy, you can't stop
He's
him.
7 foot, like 280. Like what are you supposed to do?
But
Like
at the same
literally.
time, it's like, is Jokic and the Nuggets better when he's scoring maybe 30 and can get like 8 to 10 assists? Because he only had 4 assists in game two.
Yeah.
And that's probably largely due to Jamal Murray struggling for 3 quarters, Michael Porter Jr. looking a little lazy out there, especially on the defensive end. And then Denver, like, I mean, they're a Jamal Murray three away from sending it to overtime and maybe winning game two as well because of the like I think they're on like an 11-2 run to end the fourth.
Yeah.
Miami had a pretty like comfortable lead. It looked like double digits with 4 minutes to go, and then Denver almost like closed that gap and almost made it really interesting in overtime. So to me, it's kind of like Miami gave everything they had and still only won by three. But they also, and I think the altitude change in Denver could be really real. Maybe that'll be a true home court advantage to Denver if they go back for
Yeah.
like the next game. But I'm excited to see what game three brings. With we'll see a more energized Miami team that won't be huffing and puffing in the Mile High City, and then
Yeah.
also if maybe some of those teammates around Jokic step up and give a little bit more effort and maybe help their boy get to that 8 to 10 assists mark, make the
I
offense
agree.
flow a lot better.
I agree. It's one of those things you have to figure out how to do, and you have to figure out how to. You just got to get through the tough times, and being in playoffs is not easy. And again, we've seen teams struggle that are good, and teams that are bad during the regular season do well. So, I'm interested to see what's going to happen. But hey, as you know, we'll have it all here. We'll break it down next week too of what's happening, and we'll see if Jokic can pull the Nuggets through to win the NBA Finals.
Man. All right, Ben, we'll wrap this up with some baseball talk
Oh
because we
yes.
got big
Oh,
news for both the Cleveland Indians and the Cincinnati Reds.
is this the first time I've been happy to talk about the Reds on this pod? I think this is legit the only
See,
time I've ever been
this will
happy.
make you also a little bit happy, I think. As the records stand right now, the Reds are 28 and 33.
Yes,
Cleveland is 27 and 33.
the Reds are better
But
than the Indians.
I'm here to not let anybody believe that Ben saw this coming a mile away because he's been adamant that the Reds are trash and that they suck. And I'm not going to let him try to convince you guys that he knew otherwise. But the Reds are exceeding his expectations and obviously everybody else in baseball.
You know, but I'll say though, man, this team is young. Spencer Steer, by the way, has been a bright star. He's got 8 home runs, 31 RBIs, hitting 290 as a rookie. He's like, I think he's top 10 in every category of rookie hitters, top 5 in most. I think he's got a good chance to win Rookie of the Year if he keeps having the way he's hitting right now. You have Jake Fraley. We call him Rayleigh, Rakin Fraley, right? Whatever you want to call him, the Viking, whatever. He did nothing in Seattle. He comes here and he's got 8 home runs, 37 RBIs. Like he's hitting the ball really well. Jonathan India's found that form again from his rookie year. Hunter Green, now his ERA is not great. It's at 3.92, but he struck out the third most batters in the NL. Like that's what we expect from him, right? Now Ashcraft has struggled. He's got like a 70 ERA. It's awful. That's the one thing they've struggled with is finding good starting pitching. But they brought up Abbott, who threw 6 scoreless innings. They brought up McLean, who I did say, by the way, at the beginning of the year, I said, watch for McLean because he's going to be a talented guy. And McLean he just got his hit streak snap, but he's hitting 330. He's on base almost 400. He just had a walk-off last night. And then you have, obviously Alexi Diaz in the bullpen tied for the lead in National League in saves. You have Joey Votto on the mend. Honestly, Joey, if you just want to stay on the injury list, I know I hate wasting the money, but I don't know what you're going to do. Stevenson's been a disappointment. The catcher, I mean, he's only hitting 230, which has been really a disappointment because he hit over 300 last year. But then obviously Elly De La Cruz.
That's the name
This
I've been
man,
waiting to
this
hear.
this thing, and I wanted to wait him for last because this guy, right? We all been waiting, right? Right, Josh. Everyone's been waiting in Cincinnati. When are you going to call him up? Where is he going to play? You know, they, Senzel got hurt. Which, by the way, Senzel has had a great comeback year. He got hurt, goes on the DL, and I see on my phone Elly De La Cruz, and I'm like, oh, so they're not going to wait a whole year because I thought they're probably going to wait till September, call him up for a few weeks, and then basically start him for next year. But I think they realize, hey, we're close enough to the wild card that, hey, maybe he can make a difference, but also, hey, let's get a year under his belt before you really give him the reins. And Elly De La Cruz hit a ball 112 mile an hour off the bat. By the way, that's his first career hit in the majors. That is 4 miles per hour more than the next guy in the Major League Baseball. Just put that in perspective. This dude is 20, almost 21 years old. He ran like it was like 30 miles per hour around from home or something. I don't know, some weird stat. In the minors, he's been hitting almost 300. He's got 11 stolen bases. He's been hitting home runs. He's hit grand slams. To me, Elly De La Cruz, if he stays healthy and with Reds players, as Josh knows as much as I do, Reds rookies always get hurt or the young guys get hurt in like year 2 or 3. Look at Senzel. But to be honest, man, I watched his highlights from yesterday. Man, the way he swings that bat is so smooth. He takes pitches too. How many guys do we see with that much pop strike out like 3 times in their first game? The dude walked twice and hit a double. Like that.
One for three, the one double, the 2 walks, the run scored, and he was batting cleanup against the
Yes.
Dodgers and Tony Gonsolin. Like
Yes.
they
I mean,
have all the confidence in the world in this kid.
he is going to be an elite. Now, will he stay with Cincinnati forever? No, he'll probably do this, the 6-year thing, and then after 6 years, he'll go somewhere else. But Reds fans, you have to enjoy it. And I shared on our Instagram page at baseline.podcast. You saw the photo that I shared where if you looked at Cincinnati Red Stadium, it was full for the first time in years. You saw people bring out their phones and like, this is a dude that can unite this city. He's a quiet kid. He's not a talker. And you put Matt McLean right next to him. That's a great shortstop, third base. And by the way, you have Indy at second base and Steer at first. I'm just saying, people, Reds might not win. They probably will win about maybe, I think, 75, 80 games this year, maybe a little less. They're not going to probably make the playoffs, but watch out, guys. This team is young and fiery. And I've said this for the last 3 years. If you just let these guys develop, this team could be something. And here we are.
We're still waiting in Cleveland for the permanent call-ups of Gavin Williams and Brian Raccio and Bo Naylor. We don't know when that'll happen, but we did get one key player back making his season debut, and that was Tristan McKenzie on the mound.
Yeah.
Deals 5 scoreless innings, only allows 1 hit, and gets 10 strikeouts against Minnesota Twins. And in perfect Cleveland Indians fashion, he didn't even come out with the win because they can't score. They eventually won the game 2-1, but it's great to have McKenzie back. And now the talk in Cleveland is, can we trade Shane Bieber and make Tristan McKenzie our number 1? That's going to be interesting to follow. There's a lot of young pitching talent. They're excited about guys like Allen and Bybee and, as I mentioned, Williams. We'll see what happens with some of those guys, but they've been talking about trading Bieber to get like another bat, and I think honestly, let's just see what some of these guys in AAA can do at the plate, because all I hear is that they're all the rave when it comes to the plate, but for whatever reason, we're not bringing them up.
And you got to give credit to the Reds that they've been not scared to bring up their young guys and say, go at it. I mean, you look at them this year.
I think that's one of the big keys, man. Like what you mentioned, De La Cruz coming up now. It's like, well, they're 5 games below 500. That division, I mean, the Brewers, I think, are still winning, and they're only like 2 games above 500.
Yeah.
The wild card is in play. Heck, the division could be in play.
I mean, look at what the Reds are doing. I mean, I think their starting lineup is probably averages like 26 years old. I mean, they don't have many veterans in their lineup, and dude, like people are like, well, Jake Fraley is a veteran. I'm like, dude, he's only a second-year player. Like he hasn't even been playing that much, and that's what shows you, like, man, like if they can get the bullpen figured out, like the front end of the bullpen and some of the starters figured out, give these guys develop at the plate. Like De La Cruz, man, I would love to watch him in person, because they say when he runs, it's like a gazelle. the way he just runs around those bases is mind-boggling, I think, to a lot of people.
Well,
The
Ben, you'll
question is,
be
and the
returning
question is, where
home
are they
in
going to play him? I've heard people that say, well, we should move him to center field. I'm like, no, keep him in the infield. You know how many 6'6", 6'7" shortstops you have?
Elly
Zero.
Cruz.
I mean, that's it, right? But like this dude could be an amazing up the middle. I think that what's going to end up happening is I think you're going to see India move to third base, McLean move to second, and De La Cruz take shortstop. And that's what's going to end up happening.
Man. Ben, you're going to be back in Ohio in July.
Yes.
And I bet you never thought that you'd be going to watch a Cincinnati Reds game when you came back, but
No, it's actually funny because my wife and I were talking about that. We want to go watch a game, and I was like, man, this is the perfect opportunity to get me a black De La Cruz jersey.
oh man, the
Oh,
Blackout City Edition jerseys.
oh, those are just on fire. Those
Yeah.
are just beautiful. But no, I mean, the coolest thing too is Eric Davis let him wear 44, which I think is really awesome. Like Eric Davis is like, dude, wear 44, man. Like, make it proud. Because I think Adam Dunn and Eric Davis are the last two to wear it. I mean, those are two big names in Reds history that you got to compete with.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's interesting to see, man, and I think both of us can say, like, I think the Ohio Cup this year is going to be an awesome series. It's either going to be really high scoring or very low scoring.
No in between.
There's going to be no in between.
Yeah. Yeah. We're gonna maybe have a freak game where Cleveland scores a whopping 5 runs or something like that, and then the other 2 games they'll score
I
like
just
2-0.
I just loved, Guardians, Indians, whatever you want to say. I love the you guys as fans because it's just like you guys were so hyped about your pitching and like, we're punching Judy hitters, and then now you guys all hate it because no one's hitting doubles, no one's hitting triples, no one's
No
hitting
one's
home
hitting,
runs.
period. I think they're still last in batting average.
Josh, how do you feel? Are you starting to feel like what I do every time I talk about the Reds? Is it starting to come out now?
I don't know because like last year there really was no hope for the Reds,
That is
and
true.
this year there's things that Cleveland could be doing to play better that they aren't doing. They're just stuck in their own ways, it seems like, and
Hey, the
maybe there's
the
some
catcher's your best hitters on the team, man.
there's like some miscommunication going on between the front office and Terry Francona. I don't think they're on the same page, and so they're just continuing to do things that aren't working, and they're not making adjustments. They're not trying new guys out. So
Why do you need to
seems
try
like
you guys out, man?
they're leaving some wins, some hits, some runs on the table, and they aren't playing to their full potential. And maybe they'll get there eventually and finally make those changes. But usually it works itself out because it just takes guys a little bit to get in a rhythm. But I think the guys, I mean, we're into June now. I think the guys basically are what they are right now.
I
And we got to
mean,
make some changes around the lineup, man.
your catching position is just they're tearing the cover off the ball.
Off
Luke,
the ball,
by the way,
man.
Luke Maley has only played in like I think 30 games for the Reds, and he's hitting 260. Like he's hitting, but last year he could barely hit. It's just
Maley, Owen Miller, Nolan Jones. There's a Yandy Diaz, Gio Urshela. There's a handful of former
do,
Cleveland Indians out there,
do
Ben,
they
that are
just
hitting way better than they did in Cleveland.
is it just a thing where like the management in their contract says you're not allowed to hit above
It's a
200?
it's a legit discussion on what's going on. Why can't Cleveland develop hitters, but they can develop pitchers? I don't know. It's not the ballpark though, Ben, because in the
Oh,
90s
it's
we
a
had
hitter.
Manny
It's a hitter
Ramirez,
friendly,
Jim
yeah.
Thome, and Albert Bell hitting
And
40 to
Lofton.
50 bombs a year on the same team. Nothing's changed. It's not like it's a pitcher friendly park where you can't hit. They just have never had anybody capable of doing it. Like think about this, Ben. Roberto Perez, a catcher that barely hit over 200 during the 2016 World Series run, hit 24 home runs that season. That probably leads the team this year. Pathetic, bro.
I mean, I'll give credit though. The Reds don't really have anybody hitting bomb, but they have like 12 guys with like 7 home runs. So at least they're like, even in and out across the
They're
board.
balanced, and that's kind of like how Tampa Bay is too. I think they lead the league in home runs, but they don't really have anybody in double digits.
No, I mean, by the way, stolen bases are so much more fun to watch now. They were so demoralizing the last like 5 years, and now that everyone's stealing, like there's 2 guys already over 20 stolen bases. It's awesome to see. I love it. And the Reds
Sure,
can
man.
steal bases. The Reds are like, I think, 3rd in stolen bases, which is like, oh, fascinating.
Turn a single into a double. Way the rules are now.
That is true. Anyways, Josh, I think it's been a great week of sports. You've survived. I've survived.
We did.
As I'm finishing school up this week, obviously the summer months are here. So obviously Josh and I will try to get some kind of cool things going on. I will be in the States for 3 weeks. So during those time, we'll see what the schedule of the podcast looks like. That's later in July. We are trying to do a in-person show together, which, by the way, has not happened since we started this show
It's
together.
never happened.
Outside of when we were at our other podcast radio show at Cedarville. It's the last time we actually recorded it in the same room. So it will be happening somewhere. Even if we have to do it in a freaking car, we will do it in some way or another. If it's road tripping, it's road tripping with the boys. But not so cool. In a Honda Element. I don't know if that's safe. Probably shouldn't be recording while we're driving. But anyways, it's going to be full. I know last summer was a really big summer for us. We really started doing a lot of different things. And so we're still trying to obviously grow in different ways. But let us know in the comments, like any ideas you have for the summer topics. If you'd like us to bring my brother on to talk about soccer, please don't get in his head, because then he's just going to think he has to be on here every week. We want to hear people talk about hockey or fighting or different things, golf, whatever. Let us know. We know people. We know people. And it's a great time. So we really hope that you will enjoy it this summer as we continue doing what we love doing together and doing this. So once again, thank you so much for listening. If you've loved listening on YouTube, go ahead and click that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. And if you've loved listening on Spotify, make sure you share that link with people. It allows us to see kind of where it's going and who's listening. Make sure you give us a 5-star rating on that. And as always, we hope you have an amazing weekend with your family and friends. Maybe you're starting the summer after school. Maybe you're working. Maybe you're not working. We hope you really do enjoy your weekend, whatever you're doing. And until next time, we'll see ya.